Very cold outside today. Somebody's all snuggled up in bed. Can't say I blame him.
Good morning guys, welcome back to the channel. Today's not going to be a run. As you can probably tell, the conditions are very icy at the moment. I've got the day off work, today's a Wednesday, and I was going to go for a run with a few friends, just a social run, nothing too difficult, but the conditions just aren't working, so we're still meeting up. We're going to go and have something to eat and a coffee. I'm actually going to Burrs Country Park, which you'll have seen us running around a few weeks ago maybe. I'll stick a link up at the top to that video. We did the Burrs community run. So we're going down there, we're going to visit the cafe, have something to eat. Oh, this is a bit boggy, let's look at this. It's like dancing on ice. So yeah, we're going to meet and go for a coffee. And I decided, because it's a nice day and I've got the day off work, I might as well make the most of it. So I'm walking down. It's not too far, it's about 2 kilometres, 3 kilometres, something like that. It's not too far. I've run it before now and then run round the Burrs community run and then run home again, so it's not too far at all. And this, actually where I am at the moment, is part of Clarence Park Run, which actually is our most local park run by a long shot, but we've never done it. They only started this park run last year, I think. It wasn't long ago at all. It's known as a bit of a mud fest. It is essentially a cross-country course for the most part, and it's also hit and miss whether it's on. And as is the way with these things, cancellations and stuff usually gets advertised on Facebook, and up until very recently neither me or Becky were on Facebook. We came off Facebook, we came off all traditional social media 12 years ago, I think, something like that. But we have just recently, because it is becoming unavoidable, created an account for the channel where we hope to be able to share videos with the park runs that we go to. We can share the video links with them so that, you know, when we record our videos, people can get a chance to look out for themselves if they want to. So yeah, I'm getting distracted. Not that I'm known for that or anything. So yeah, I'm walking down to Burrs Park today, and I thought I'd have a bit of a chat to you about something that's been on my mind recently. Obviously it's currently January, so new year, new me and all that lot. There'll be a lot of people out there who are thinking about taking up running, maybe trying park runs, and maybe trying to improve their fitness a little bit. And one of the most recommended ways of starting to do that is the Couch to 5k program. Now, I did the Couch to 5k program. I started it about 2.5 years ago, and it's supposed to be a 9-week plan of 3 runs a week, and it combines intervals of jogging and walking to gradually build you up, supposedly to be able to run a 5k. But there are some pitfalls about that, and with it being this current time of year, I really wanted to share some of those pitfalls and some of the issues, because the Couch to 5k is so highly regarded. Even the NHS in the UK has an app for the Couch to 5k program, but it's not perfect. There are problems with it. So this video is going to be everything wrong with the Couch to 5k program, and I hope to help you guys to learn from the mistakes that I made without having to do it the easy way. So I'm going to be very careful while I walk because it is slippy and icy. I have my trail shoes on. Those are the Innovate Trailfly G300 Max, which It takes you almost as long to say as it takes you to run a trail run. They are good shoes, it's just the name's ridiculous. So I'm going to very carefully walk to Burrs and keep an eye out for this dog that's looking at me. It's looking very interested. And yeah, we'll talk you through the issues with Couch to 5k. I have to be honest, all this crunchy grass is very satisfying to walk on. Well, it was satisfying to walk on until I stood in a puddle. Yeah, I've got cold toes now. So issue number one then. Couch to 5k program is a training plan. Whether you download it as an app or you download it as a document, it still falls down against the same reasons that every other training plan falls down at. Oh, that's very, very slippy. Let's get to this grass where it's a bit less slippy. And that issue, the biggest one of those, is it's a rigid training plan. It's a document or it's an app. You can't change the app because you don't feel so good. Likewise, you can't change the document because you don't feel so good. Now, training plans, in my mind, are supposed to be a guide. Rather than treating it as, you know, like the God's word, for example, you should treat it as a guide. Give you directions on how to train correctly, whilst not necessarily being the exact way. And this is a big problem for Couch to 5k because it's intended for novices and beginners, people who aren't used to doing this stuff. And so they might download the app and they'll run their 90-second intervals and walk the 2-minute intervals, whatever. And they'll do it exactly as the plan says, even if they've got sore legs, which is interesting because I don't run if I'm sore. You know, you have general aches and pains from exercise, but if you're actual in pain, you shouldn't run. A beginner's not going to know that. They're not going to know what kinds of aches are normal after going for a run, whereas someone who's experienced would. And so you run the risk there that people will force themselves to run what the plan says to run, regardless of how they feel. It's important to listen to your body. If you run one day and then 2 days later you're feeling a little bit of ache and you try and go for another run, if your pain gets worse, take a couple of rest days. That's important. When I started doing the Couch to 5k plan, I ran religiously Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 3 times a week. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, those were Couch to 5k days. And there were some days on Fridays when the pain had built up a little bit through the week where I couldn't hit what was on the plan. And that set me back because then I hadn't completed what would be, the way I looked at it is, if I completed the plan on the Friday, then I treated that week as having been complete. If I couldn't complete the one on the Friday, then I hadn't completed the week and I felt like I needed to go back. And that leads me neatly onto the second one. So the second issue is inflexibility. Because it's a rigid training plan, because it says it's 9 weeks, that makes people think that they have to complete the weeks in the order that they are on the plan. And they do go from week 1 to week 2 to week 3 to week 4. The problem with that is, especially when you get to week 5, when the last day on week 5 is a 20-minute long run, when up to that point your longest ever run has been 8 minutes. If you get there too quick, you're not going to finish that run. You're probably going to hurt yourself. And that's just going to set you back even further. So something that I would recommend is, if you feel like you are still struggling at the end of the week with the sessions that are set for you, redo that week. There's nothing wrong with the Couch to 5k program taking 12 weeks, 13 weeks to complete because you redid a few weeks. In actual fact, when I did Couch to 5k, it took me 4.5 months. It was about 18 weeks in total that it took me to complete it. And I'm not ashamed of that. I started from a very low base. I was very inactive before we started running. And I redid weeks. There were weeks when I got poorly, so I decided to rest to get better. There was 1 week when I had a bit of a niggle in my ankle, and so I felt like I was just going to do damage by running on it. So I waited a week, and then I went back to the beginning of the week before. So I actually redid a week that I'd already completed because I'd had a week off, and that meant that it took me 4.5 months. It was about 17 weeks in total to complete the Couch to 5k, and that set me up then, because I now have an opinion that training plans are, as I said, a guide. Okay, and my third item ties again into point number 2, which is risk of injury. The progression rate on Couch to 5k is pretty quick, and while it might be possible for some people to achieve that, certainly wasn't possible for me to do. And if you progress too quickly, you run the risk of overuse injuries. And when you're a beginner, it's hard to understand actually just how little it takes to get an overuse injury. Things like shin splints and stuff like that are common. So take your time, listen to how things are going, and if you're finding that it's too difficult or it's causing you pain, just back off a little bit. Take a couple of days rest, maybe go easier for the rest of that week, maybe redo the previous week, just a little bit of an easier session. Oh, got some steps here. It's quite slippy. I'm going to be careful. It's not so bad on grass, but on paved areas it's quite slippy. But I have made sure there's plenty of time to get there, so we should be okay. Not in a rush. This is a nice chilled walk. Chilled in more ways than one.
An astute observation has led to laughter.
And then the other element of injury risk that isn't covered by Couch to 5k is cross training, strength training, and flexibility training. So it's pretty widely regarded in the running world that one of the best ways to prevent injury is to cross train when you need to. So, if you're struggling with the impact of running, maybe switch to a day on the cross trainer, maybe do a bit of biking. It's just a way of backing off a little bit while still getting some exercise stimulus. Strength training is important because that strengthens your tendons, it helps with your bone density, it helps with your the strength of your muscles that help with stability, because we have a lot of muscles, particularly if you sit at a desk all day. You might have weak glutes, you might have short hip flexors, things like that, where you really need those muscles to be working to stabilize the tops of your legs and your core. And if you don't have that, that can have knock-on effects further down the chain, and you can have things like ankle issues, knee issues, even issues in your foot. I had plantar fasciitis a year ago, and that actually stems from me having weak glutes, because it all comes up the chain. In particular for me, my posterior chain, because I work a desk job. So that's strength training. And then flexibility training, one of the most valuable things I found in the last 8 to 10 months is I do a bit of yoga. Now, I'm not a yoga aficionado or something. I actually do the same yoga routine every time I do it. And it's actually one that is done by Yoga with Adrienne on YouTube. I'll stick a link to the video of the one that I follow. Oh, look at this. That's solid ice, that. Be very careful. So yeah, I follow Adrienne's routine. And I do the same one every single time because it helps me to build my flexibility and stretch the muscles that are really tight from me working at a desk all the time. People may see benefits from other yoga routines, especially obviously there's the whole mental calmness aspect, and there's the psychological benefits of yoga, and some people are really into that, and that's great. Running is a mental game as well, but for me the biggest benefit is to helping to counteract those issues that I get from sitting at a desk all day that do impact my running, and that's why I do it. But the problem with Couch to 5k is it covers none of these things. It's purely focused on running. 3 runs a week. You do these 3 runs a week for 9 weeks and you'll be able to run a 5k. And it's important, I think, if you're just starting out, that you do need to be maintaining your joints, maintaining your muscles, making sure you get the recovery aspects in, and also making sure that you're building the strength the way you need to make sure that you can run safely and stably and actually get to that 5k. It's a long distance. They call it endurance running for a reason. The first time you run a 5k might take you 40 minutes. That's a long time to be on your feet, especially when it's something that you're quite new to. So yeah, look after your bodies, guys. Look up strength training for runners. Doesn't have to be a lot, just has to, it could just be half an hour once a week, just doing some simple leg exercises, some core exercises. Sorry about the sound, it's probably very echoey there. And that's all it takes is, half an hour a week. It's not a lot. It's not enough to really damage your routine too much. And with the flexibility side, the routine that I follow, the Yoga with Adrienne one, takes about 35 minutes to do. And it's something that I find is really good to do just before bed, because it helps to relax you, helps you to switch off. And really helps you to sort of wind down a little bit. So I'll do my yoga just before bed, and then I'll get into bed. I'll maybe read my book for 20 to 30 minutes, and then I'm ready to settle then. And that as well helps with your recovery, because if you settle well, you sleep well. And something they don't tell you, this is something that's just come to my mind about Couch to 5k. You don't get better running while you're running. Running generates the stimulus for your body to recover. You get better at running when you recover. So it's the time that you're not running, and the time when you get the most benefit is when you're asleep. That's your superpower. That's when your body recovers. That's when you get better at running. The actual act of doing the running is just the stimulus that triggers the recovery. So make sure you focus on that. And item number 4. One of the things that nobody ever teaches you about running is how to run. Unless you get a coach to tell you how to do it properly. Many of us are very guilty of thinking that, running's easy, we learned to do it as a kid, no one ever taught us to do it, we just got up and did it. It's like, it's almost easy to think that running's easier than walking, because we spend months of our lives as babies learning to walk, and you try to stand up and you might be able to walk a couple of feet and then fall over, and you try again and you try again. And then it's this big thing, you know, when a baby first walks. But then for running, kids just get up one day and do it, you know. So it's very easy to think, oh, running's easy. You just put one leg in front of the other, and the faster you do it, the faster you run. That's not necessarily true. And something that Couch to 5K doesn't put any focus on whatsoever is form and technique. Now, if I was to give you a quick tip on running, it's if you've just run the same that you've always run since you're a kid, you probably overstride. So what I would aim to do is try and do shorter steps. That will pick your cadence up a little bit, which is not necessarily always a bad thing. They tend to say the sweet spot is about 180 steps a minute. For some people that's a little bit too high, for others it's a little bit too low. I know my cadence tends to settle around 175 steps a minute, which is right for me. I'm quite tall, I'm 6'1", so I've got decent length legs, so you know, swinging my legs that little bit quicker just to get up to 180 is probably going to put more strain on than it needs to be. When I'm really going hard, like 4 minutes a kilometre, my cadence does pick up a bit more, but for my current pace, 175 is fine. So if you can pick your feet up a little bit quicker, that will help your feet to land more underneath your body rather than out in front of your body, which will put less strain on you, and hopefully reduce the impact on things like your knees and stuff like that. And will just help you to get a bit of an efficient stride. But it is something that we never get taught as kids, and the Couch to 5K program doesn't cover any of that. So check out James Dunn on YouTube. He's a physiotherapist, and he's focused very specifically on running, and he does a lot of stuff on form and technique. I found some of his information really useful. He did a video not so long ago actually of all of the things that we see really commonly in runners, and it was basically just 15 minutes of him describing my form. It's stuff that I'm working on, trying to pick my knees up higher, trying to flick my heels up as I run, just to shorten the lever of my leg as I bring my leg forward. It helps you to use less energy. It's a whole science. It's not that easy, just put one leg in front of the other a little bit quicker than walking, that you might think. Now, I'm going to give you a couple of bonus items that I have issues with the Couch to 5K, and then we'll get on to the biggest problem. Right, so bonus item number one. Because Couch to 5K is meant for beginners, and it usually comes as an app, but you can just download it as paper. People become over-reliant on the app or the plan, and they end up not being able to work out what they should do for themselves. And the problem is that you have to assume that people are coming from a zero base of knowledge when it comes to this stuff. So, you know, if somebody feels like they can't do session 3 on week 2 because they're sore, what should they do instead? If they can't do what's on the plan, you might forgive them for thinking they just do nothing, and that's not necessarily always the case. For me, these days, if I'm feeling sore on a session day, I just don't do that session. I'll go and do an easy run. The Couch to 5K program doesn't suggest things like, if you can't do this session, maybe go and do a walk. That's a sensible suggestion, I would have thought. Go and do a brisk walk for 30 minutes. Or, you know, if you can't do week 3, session 3, maybe try putting in one of the sessions from week 1 that's a little bit easier. That might also help to be a confidence booster, because you could compare to how you felt 3 weeks ago. And you've got to listen to how you're feeling to make sure that you balance that out properly. Bonus item number 2. What do you do after Couch to the 5k? Is a fair question. Once you've done the Couch to the 5k plan, where do we go next? Do we sign ourselves up for a 10k and just go and do it? No, we don't do that. One of the techniques that Couch to 5k is teaching you is interval training. And interval training is a skill that we all use as runners. Even once you finish your Couch to the 5k plan, the only way to get better is to continue doing intervals. I do intervals now. Now granted, I do fast running intervals with slow jog recovery intervals rather than jogging and walking. But that's because I've built up fitness over the last 2 years. But interval training is the way to get better. And a lot of the Couch to 5k programs don't really focus on where to go next. Now, I would like to recommend to you the plan that I followed, because I'm not going to name them here. I'll explain why. The plan that I followed, the app had a Couch to the 5k, and then they also had a Couch to the 10k, Couch to the half marathon. And once you'd completed the 5k plan, you could get the Couch to 10k app, and the first half would already be ticked off, and then you could carry on with new intervals to get up to 10k. That was how I trained to do my first 10k. Problem is they've started charging. It's a paid app on the App Store now. Stick a comment down below if you are looking at doing Couch to 5k and you want to know about that. If people are specifically interested, I will warn you, it is a subscription app. But if you're really interested, let me know, and maybe I'll mention it in the next video. It's just, I'm a bit annoyed personally at an app that used to be free, now is a monthly subscription. I don't think it's especially expensive. I just think it's poor value for money, especially for Couch to 5k when you can download free ones all over the place. They shouldn't be charging for it. I could understand maybe charging for the Couch to 10k, Couch to the half marathon, but the Couch to 5k should be free. We were on about reducing barriers to entry. So yeah, let me know if you want to know about that. And item number 3 is the psychological aspect of running. I just realised I've been pointing the camera at this green fence all this time. It's not a very good backdrop, is it? So, running is difficult. It's not easy. There's a lot of people say, oh, running's easy, just put one foot in front of the other, and then there's other people who say, I can't run to save my life. And the reality is, most people struggle running, and the majority of people can't run 5k. If you got them to try, they'd stop before they got to the whole 5k. Even once I completed the Couch to 5k program and started park running, I think it took me 7 or 8 park runs before I actually completed one without having to walk. And even then it took me 35 minutes. So, even after completing the Couch to 5k program, once I actually got outside, because I did a lot of mine on the treadmill, once I actually got outside and I was running around a park that had hills on it and things, and other people running around me, they do make you run quicker psychologically. But yeah, the mental aspects of running, because running's hard, you can burn out quite quickly, especially if you're forcing yourself through a program that's quite difficult. So it's important to make sure you ask yourself why you're doing it. Are you doing it for health? Are you doing it for the social aspect? If you get into park running, the social aspect is great. I'm coming down here today to have breakfast with people that we met through parkrun, and they're some of our best friends. It's a shame that Becky can't be with me today. She's at work, but the social aspect of things like parkrun is one of the reasons why I volunteer so much. It's one of the reasons why we go to parkrun so frequently. It's one of the reasons why I started doing this, because I want other people to experience those benefits too. And if I can help just one person to get into running, then this has all been worth it. You know, this isn't free to do. The cost of cameras, the cost of the software for the computer to make these videos. But if even one person gets into running, this has all been worth it. So now we'll get into the biggest issue I have with Couch to 5K, and that is setting expectations. There is an understandable expectation with Couch to 5K that when you complete it, you'll be able to run 5K. It's in the name, right? The reality is that Couch to 5K programs get you to being able to run for 30 minutes. Now, when I completed the Couch to 5K program, I couldn't run that fast. I couldn't run that fast for months. It sets unrealistic expectations about how fast you should be running. You know, if you see that the final week on the plan has you running for 30 minutes for a 5K, then you get on a treadmill wanting to do your Couch to 5K sessions, you'd be forgiven for setting the treadmill to 10 kilometers an hour. But 10 kilometers an hour, believe it or not, it's actually pretty fast for a beginner. A 30-minute 5K, it's a big target for a lot of people. You go to parkrun, and more than half of the field at many parkruns will be slower than 30 minutes. So the expectations that Couch to 5K sets you are a little bit unrealistic. And what I would strongly recommend is don't think of it as a Couch to 5K, think of it as a Couch to 30 minutes. Now realistically, if you can run for 30 minutes, you could go to a park run and you could run for 30 minutes and then maybe walk for a couple of minutes, and then you might be able to run the last little bit of the way, and you'll get to the end of your first park run and you'll have achieved something. But don't expect to turn up to your first park run after completing Couch to 5K and finish it in under 30 minutes. You're going to end up pushing yourself too hard. I found that a good pace on a treadmill was 7.5 kilometers an hour. That is 8 minutes per kilometer, and that would finish a park run in 40 minutes. And that's what I did my Couch to 5K at eventually, once I realised that. And the other thing as well, if you're not running on a treadmill, if you're running around a park as a beginner, I would say if you're running much faster than walking speed, slow down. You can run slower than walking speed, you're still running, as far as I'm concerned. I can walk a hard park run. I can power walk around in 44 minutes. I know people that run park run in 45 minutes. When I was injured and I couldn't run, I would power walk around parkrun, and I was overtaking some people that were running. Now that's not a negative on them. They were still running, and I wasn't running, I was walking. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you are out there and you are learning to run, and you are running at a pace, if you're sprinting around a park for as long as you can, you're going far too quick. If you're jogging as a newbie, as a beginner, and you're jogging at twice the speed that you walk, you're probably going too fast. I would say that as a learner, as a new runner, when you get out there, when you do your walk intervals, do them at a fairly brisk walk, and when you do your run intervals, aim to be at a pace that would only just overtake yourself. Now it sounds like you're not going to be making a lot of progress, but what you're doing is you're putting that impact on your body and you'll recover. And then when you get to the end of the Couch to 5K plan and you're looking for your local park runs or your local 5Ks, set your expectations to finish it in about 40 to 45 minutes. If you beat that, great. But be realistic about your expectations and don't let the Couch to 5K app set your expectations for you. With all of this said, the Couch to 5K is undoubtedly the best way to learn to run. It's the way I learned to run, it's the way thousands and thousands and thousands of people learn to run. all around the world. It's not just in the UK, it's a global thing these days. In fact, I think it originated in America to begin with. It is undoubtedly the best way to learn to run. And although I've picked out a load of issues here, there is nothing wrong with doing the Couch to 5k, but there are caveats, and none of the plans, none of the apps ever tell you about those caveats, and it's really important that you know those if you're taking it up this January and you're learning to run and maybe looking at doing your first 5k. So I wish you all the very best if you are completing a Couch to 5k program. Let me know how you get on. I am genuinely interested. I do reply to all comments if you comment down below. And if you would consider liking and subscribing to the channel, we'd really appreciate it. It helps us to grow, it helps us to reach more people. And thank you to everyone who subscribed to us recently. It amazes me that the number of subscribers that we're getting is not only increasing, but it's increasing at a faster rate every week. It's amazing to see. I never thought this would go anywhere, but we really appreciate it. So good luck with your Couch to 5k programs if you're doing it. If you're getting into marathon season and you're getting into your training for London Marathon and all the spring marathons that are coming up, best of luck to you. I won't be doing a marathon. I'm currently in a bit of a maintenance phase for 5k training because I'm aiming to do a fast 5k hopefully in 2 weeks, so we'll see how that goes. And then as we move into spring, early summer, we'll be doing some 10k training, and then we'll move back to half marathon training, ready for the October half marathon in Manchester. So best of luck to you guys. Thank you for watching if you've stuck us out for this long, and have a good week, and we'll see you next time.